No human had ever walked this deep into the Empire's capital, and Admiral Hale felt every step echo inside his bones. The grand hallway was carved from living crystal, glowing with soft blue veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. Strange alien banners hung above him, shifting shape as if they were alive. He had seen burning ships and shattered planets, but nothing had ever made him feel so painfully small. And yet he kept walking. His boots clicked on the transparent floor, and beneath it he saw miles of drifting starlight. They built their palace above a nebula cloud, letting the galaxy shine under their feet. Exhaled slowly. Humans were not made for heights like this, he thought, but he refused to show fear. The guards around him had eyes of molten silver, watching him with unreadable expressions. "Admiral Hale," one guard spoke, voice smooth and echoing, "the Queen waits. Do not look away when she speaks. She will know." Swallowed once and nodded. He had not come as a conqueror or a diplomat. He had come because the Queen had summoned him personally, something no ruler had done in thousands of years. Every whisper in the galaxy said the same thing. When the Queen calls, stars tremble. Two enormous doors made of black crystal parted slowly, stepped forward, and the air instantly changed. It grew heavier, cooler, charged with a strange energy that made his skin prickle. The throne hall was shaped like a spiraling shell, curving upward into a dome of swirling cosmic fog. Music, soft, haunting, almost like a distant lullaby, drifted through the air. At the center of the hall was the throne. She sat upon it with a presence more overwhelming than any battlefield had stood on. Queen of was tall, graceful, and terrifyingly still. Her skin shimmered like stardust, shifting colors with every breath. Her hair floated as if underwater, strands glowing with violet light. But her eyes were the saddest had ever seen, deep and ancient, carrying centuries of sorrow. He stopped 3 steps before the throne, as tradition demanded. "Human," the Queen spoke softly, but her voice filled the hall like rolling thunder. "Step closer. I must see the one who a fleet alone." Clenched his jaw. The memory of that day still haunted him, the day he had stood between her warships and a refugee convoy. He had been foolish, reckless, desperate, but he had saved them. He took one more step. Her gaze studied him with curiosity rather than anger. "You fear me," she said quietly, "and yet you come." "I come because you called," replied, forcing his voice steady, "and because humans keep their promises." A faint smile touched her lips, strange, fragile, gone in an instant. "You think your courage is a shield," she murmured, "but courage can be a wound as well." Didn't know how to answer that. The Queen slowly stood, her gown moving like a falling comet. She walked down the steps, each footstep sending ripples of light across the floor. The guards did not move. The room did not breathe. Only his heartbeat sounded in his ears. Stopped in front of him, her face only a few inches away. Could feel the cold aura radiating from her, like deep space itself. "Admiral Hale," she whispered, "I summoned you because I must make a request no other being can accept." Stiffened, "What kind of request?" Her eyes glowed faintly, not with power but with fear. "A request," she said, "that shames my throne." He blinked. He had prepared for threats, negotiations, maybe even imprisonment, but not this trembling sadness in her voice. The Queen raised a hand, hovering lightly near his chest but not touching. "You are known across the stars for protecting lives, even when they are not your own people, even when the odds crush every chance." Didn't speak. He felt her sorrow like cold wind. His voice cracked, barely audible. "I stand before you not as a ruler," she whispered, "but as a mother." The hall turned silent, as if the universe itself paused. "My daughter," she continued, voice shaking, "has been taken by a force older than my empire, older than your species, and I cannot save her." His breath hitched. This was not the request of an empress. This was the plea of someone who had lost hope. The Queen met his eyes with a desperation that shattered her regal mask. "Human," she said, "I beg you save my child." Felt his world tilt. He had expected danger. He had expected threats. He had expected politics. But not this. Not a queen's broken plea. not the universe asking a single human to do the impossible. And in that moment, Hale understood something terrifying. Whatever awaited him beyond this hall would change everything. Hale stood frozen, the echo of the Queen's plea shaking him more than any battlefield ever had. The throne hall felt heavier now, as if the walls themselves had heard a secret too painful to hold. The Queen of the most feared and respected ruler in the outer spiral stood before him like a grieving parent, stripped of all power. Opened his mouth, unsure what to say. "Your Majesty, I'm only human, why me?" The Queen lowered her gaze, "Because no one else dares to try." Those words struck him deeper than she knew. He had spent years fighting for people who had no hope left. He had saved strangers, enemies, even traitors, because he always believed one simple thing: life was worth protecting. But this was different. "Tell me everything," he said quietly. The Queen nodded and stepped back, her gown brushing across the floor like falling starlight. She lifted her hand, and the lights in the hall dimmed until the ceiling above glowed with a swirling map of stars. The image formed a chaotic pattern, like the universe was bleeding light. "This region," she whispered, pointing to a dark corner of the map, "is called the Void Rift. It does not appear on human charts because your ships cannot survive its storms." The projection expanded, showing violent spirals of purple fog twisting like monstrous hands. "It is a wound in space, a place where energy collapses and reforms without order." Stepped closer, staring at the storm. "You sent your daughter there." "No," the Queen's voice tightened. "She was taken." The air dropped in temperature. Looked at her slowly, reading the fear behind her glowing eyes. "By who?" "Not who," the Queen answered. "What?" The map shifted again. A massive shadow appeared, no shape, no face, only darkness moving like liquid night. "We call it the Maw," she whispered. "It rises from the rift every few centuries, devouring stars, ships, and mines. Entire fleets disappear without a cry." Felt a chill crawl down his spine. Then why enter the rift at all? "She wished to prove herself worthy of the throne," the Queen murmured, looking away as if ashamed. "She took her guardian ship to study the edges of the rift. I warned her, but she believed she was strong enough." A flicker of pain crossed the Queen's face. "She is only 16 cycles old," she whispered. "A child, my child." His chest tightened. He had seen young soldiers die under his command. He had carried their names like stones. Hearing a mother's voice break hit him harder than any weapon. "What happened to the Guardians?" he asked softly. The Queen's lips trembled. Their final transmission was only static and a scream. Closed his eyes, imagining the terror in that last moment. The storm, the darkness, the unexplainable thing swallowing everything. "Why come to me?" he asked again, but gentler this time. The Queen inhaled slowly, as if gathering strength. "Because humans walk into danger even when they should run, because your kind is reckless, stubborn, and impossibly hopeful. And because," she said, her voice growing faint, "my daughter admired your courage. She watched the recording of you facing our fleet. She said, 'If I ever need saving, I want a human like him.'" His breath caught in his throat. A queen's request was one thing. A child's belief was another. The Queen stepped closer again, but now her voice shook. "Admiral Hale, I am not ordering you, I am begging you. My armies cannot go into the rift, my scholars cannot explain the Maw, my throne cannot protect her. But you have something we do not." "And what is that?" whispered. "Defiance," the Queen said. "A fire that even the void cannot swallow." He didn't know how to respond. Every instinct told him this mission was madness. No charts, no logic, no guarantee he would return. He would be flying into a storm that ate suns. Silence filled the hall for a long moment. Then asked quietly, "If I agree, what am I walking into?" The Queen lifted her hand again. A small orb of light floated forward and opened like a flower, revealing a hologram of a girl, young, bright-eyed, wearing armor too big for her. She laughed, a soft sound that filled the hall with warmth. "That is Princess Lyra," the Queen said. "The last image we have of her." Stared at the girl's smile, innocent, brave, full of life. Something inside him shifted. He straightened his back. "Your Majesty," he said, voice steady now, "I will go." The queen gasped softly, not in surprise, but in relief so deep it sounded like a wounded heart healing for a moment. "Wasn't done. But I need a ship, a map, a crew you trust, and I need to know the truth." The queen looked up. "The truth?" "Yes," said, "what the maw really is and why it wanted your daughter." The queen hesitated, and in that hesitation realized something. There was more. Much more. And whatever that truth was, it terrified even the queen of. "Admiral," she whispered, voice trembling, "the maw did not take her at random. It took her because of me." Felt the floor tilt beneath him. The queen's next words struck like a meteor. "My daughter carries a secret, one that could end my empire or save it, and the maw wants that secret for itself." The hall darkened completely. And understood. He hadn't accepted a rescue mission. He had accepted a war he did not understand. Hale left the throne hall with a new weight pressing on his shoulders. The queen's words replayed in his mind over and over. The maw wants that secret for itself. He didn't know what the secret was, or how a human could possibly survive a place that consumed stars, but he had promised. And in his heart, humans did not back away from impossible odds. The engineers had prepared a ship for him, a sleek vessel called the Star Warden. Unlike human ships, it moved not with engines alone, but with a strange energy that seemed to respond to thought. Had never piloted anything like it, but he had learned quickly in life. When survival depends on courage, you learn faster than fear can take hold. The launch platform floated above the nebula like a silver dagger poised over an ocean of fire. Stepped into the cockpit, feeling the hum of energy around him. His crew consisted of 2 navigators, silent and watchful, and a human engineer who had volunteered for reasons didn't ask. The queen had not interfered. She only gave a nod and a warning. "Remember, Admiral," she had said, her voice carrying over the comms, "the maw does not obey the laws of space. It will test your mind as much as your body." His jaw tightened. He had survived ambushes, black holes, and enemy fleets. But this was something else entirely. The ship dropped from the launch platform into the dark expanse of the nebula. Purple fog swirled around them, dense and alive. The sensors blinked erratically, unable to penetrate the storm. "Stay calm," said to his team. His voice sounded steadier than he felt. "We follow the course the Queen's scholars traced. We don't look left or right, we go straight." Minutes became hours or maybe days. Time felt stretched, as if the maw had a different way of counting. Shadows moved along the edges of their vision, shapes too fluid to name. Occasionally, whispers echoed through the cockpit, fragments of voices, laughter, even cries of people long dead. His mind screamed to look away, to turn back, but he didn't. Humans survived because they dared to see what others refused to. Then came the first test. A rift tore open before them, a twisting spiral of darkness that seemed alive. Energy lashes whipped at the Star Warden, battering shields that glowed like molten silver. The navigators froze, their usually calm faces drained of color. "Brace!" shouted. He gripped the controls, feeling the ship shudder as though it were a living thing resisting the maw. He whispered to himself, courage can be a wound, but it can also be a weapon. The darkness reached for them, tendrils of shadow stretching like claws. For a moment, thought the ship would be torn apart. But then, he acted on instinct, not logic. He dove into the spiral, letting the ship move as if it were part of him, trusting his human reflexes more than any sensor or algorithm. The tendrils missed, slicing through the void with a scream that rattled every bone in the cockpit. The crew gasped, exhaled slowly. They had survived the maw's first test, but he knew, deep in his bones, it had only begun. Hours later, the fog cleared slightly. Ahead, a faint light flickered, like a candle struggling against a storm. The orb of hope made his heart race. Could it be her, Princess Lyra? He didn't allow himself the thought fully. Hope was dangerous here. Then the whispering began again, not through the comms this time, inside his mind. "You will fail, you cannot save her, leave now." The voices were endless, overlapping, cruel, shook his head violently. "I will not leave her," he shouted. The words felt absurd in the emptiness, but somehow they strengthened him. Humans refused to bow to fear. The orb ahead pulsed brighter. Shapes began forming, rubble, remnants of ships, hints of structures lost to the Maw centuries ago, recognized the wreckage of guardians, the very ones who had protected Lyra. They were scattered like stars in a dying sky. And then he saw her. A small figure standing on a floating piece of debris, hair glowing faintly in the darkness. The girl looked terrified but defiant. Her eyes locked on his through the distance and felt a strange, sharp warmth in his chest. A life depended on him, not on strategy, not on technology, on courage, human courage. "Hold on, Princess Lyra," he whispered, gripping the controls. "I'm coming." The Maw roared around them, a sound without shape, a hunger without mercy. But Hale smiled faintly. Humans had never survived by running from impossible odds. They survived by facing them, by daring when others fell silent. And he was not about to fail. He pushed the Star Warden forward, deeper into the darkness, toward the girl who believed in him. Somewhere in the void, a human heart refused to break. Hale's heart pounded like a war drum as the Star Warden drifted closer to the flickering figure of Princess Lyra. The wreckage of the Guardians surrounded her, jagged metal floating like tombstones in the endless dark. Every instinct screamed danger, but humans did not hesitate when someone's life hung by a thread. "Keep the shields up," ordered. The navigator's hands flew across the console. Energy shields shimmered, repelling the invisible currents of the Maw's hunger. Still, the dark tendrils reached for them, grasping, twisting, as if sensing the girl's fear and trying to feed on it. Lyra's small voice carried through the comms, trembling but fierce. Who is that?" "It's me," shouted back. "I'm here to bring you home." She hesitated, then nodded. Hope flared in her glowing eyes, but the Maw sensed it too. The shadows surged, black waves that crashed against the Star Warden like oceans of nothingness. The ship groaned under the strain. His mind raced. Every plan, every calculation he had made felt useless. The Maw did not obey rules. Its hunger was ancient, cruel, and unpredictable. And yet, he remembered the Queen's words, "Humans have defiance, a fire even the void cannot swallow." He clenched his jaw. "We move together," he told the crew. "No one hesitates, no one looks back." Lyra leapt from her debris onto the Star Warden's magnetic grapple. His heart clenched as the ship rocked violently, nearly losing her to the shadows. "Hold on!" he screamed, extending the mechanical arm. The girl's small hands gripped tightly, her knuckles white. The Maw lashed at them. Streams of darkness wrapped around the ship, pulling, twisting. One of the navigators shouted, "We cannot hold it much longer." His eyes narrowed. Logic failed. Strategy failed. Only courage remained. He activated the ship's emergency thrust, sending a surge of power through the Star Warden's core. The tendrils of darkness shrieked and recoiled as if burned, and the ship leapt forward with a force that rattled every bone in his body. Lyra screamed but reached for her. Their hands met, a brief trembling contact, and then she was inside. For a moment, everything went silent. The Maw paused as though stunned by their defiance. It was not used to living things fighting back, especially humans. But the silence was fleeting. The shadows swirled again, faster, sharper, cutting deeper. Debris smashed into the hull. Alarms blared. The ship rocked violently. One of the navigators froze, eyes wide with terror. "We cannot survive another hit," he gasped. His gaze met Lyra's. Her small face was pale, but her eyes burned with something unbreakable. She reminded him of why humans fought, not for glory, not for power, but for each other. He made a decision, sudden and absolute. "Eject the auxiliary pods," he ordered. "Draw the Maw's attention away from us." The navigators hesitated. His hand slammed down on the controls. "Do it." Pods shot out like shooting stars into the darkness. The Maw latched onto them immediately, its hunger drawn to the moving targets. The ship shuddered violently but surged forward. Strategy had worked, barely. But he knew the cost. Some of the pods contained vital supplies and the data they might have needed for survival if things went worse. He had gambled human lives for one child. And yet, humans had always been willing to risk everything for one soul. "Stay close, Princess," he whispered. "I won't let go." Lyra nodded, clutching his arm like a lifeline. She shivered, but her defiance mirrored his own. She had survived terror far beyond her years, and now she rode with a human who would not abandon her, even against a force that could consume the stars. The maw roared in frustration, sending waves of energy that bent the very fabric of space around them. The Star Warden's hull began to glow red-hot. Sparks flew, screens shattered, and the ship's trembling threatened to tear them apart. Gritted his teeth, pushing forward. Humans did not bow to monsters, no matter how ancient or powerful. He thought of the Queen's plea, of Lyra's faith, and of all the lives he had vowed to protect. Courage was not absence of fear. It was standing when the universe demanded surrender. And he stood. As the shadows stretched to crush them, Hale felt something strange, a faint warmth from Lyra. She whispered almost inaudibly, "I knew you would come." Her words cut through the darkness like sunlight. He realized then that the maw was not just a storm. It was a test, a trial meant to break hope. And humans were made to fight trials like this. Tightened his grip on the controls, muscles burning, heart racing. The ship shuddered violently again. The maw screamed. And yet one human heart refused to break, carrying the fragile light of hope into a place that had never known mercy. For the first time, the darkness seemed hesitant. Hale smiled faintly, grimly. Humans survived because they refused to surrender. And he was far from surrendering. The maw shrieked as the Star Warden pressed deeper into its twisting core. Shadows bent reality around them, warping the stars into shapes that made stomach turn. The ship creaked and groaned under impossible pressure, but his hands never left the controls. Every muscle in his body screamed exhaustion, yet he could not slow. Human lives, fragile and defiant, depended on him. Princess Lyra clung to the console, her small face pale under the flickering lights. But her eyes burned with determination, and in that fire found strength. Humans survived because they refused to surrender, because hope, even against impossible odds, could cut through darkness. Ahead, the maw pulsed like a living heart. Its center was a void of absolute black, swallowing every particle of light. Knew instinctively if they entered, there would be no turning back. The voices in his mind whispered warnings, fleeting images of forgotten explorers, ancient civilizations devoured without trace, but he ignored them. Humans did not survive by listening to fear, they survived by acting. "Hold on," he shouted. "This is the last stretch." Lyra's small hands gripped the railing, trembling. Will we make it?" she asked, voice barely audible over the ship's alarms. Looked at her, in that moment he saw the truth. Courage was not the absence of fear, it was the choice to act despite it. "We will," he said firmly. "Humans don't give up, and I don't leave anyone behind." The maw reacted instantly, as if offended by his defiance. Shadows exploded outward, battering the ship like a living storm. Panels shattered, sparks rained down, and the hull's protective energy shields flared red-hot. One of the navigators screamed in alarm, but cut through the panic. "Focus on the exit path," he commanded. "Lyra, stay with me." The orb of light they had been following flickered violently, wobbling as the maw's hunger lashed out. His mind raced, trying to calculate angles and thrust, while instincts screamed at him to dive, pull back, surrender. But humans were not built for surrender. Humans were built for impossible choices, for acts of courage no one else could imagine. The shadows reached in, snatching debris, slashing at the ship, and for a moment feared even the Star Warden could not survive. Then he felt it, the pulse of human determination, fierce and unyielding. He pushed the ship harder, trusting his skill, trusting instinct, trusting the defiance that carried his kind through countless battles. The core of the maw loomed ahead. Absolute darkness, silent and endless, but then a faint glow appeared within it. His breath caught. It was Lyra. She floated above a fragment of her guardian's wrecked ship, small and fragile, yet unbowed. She looked at him, eyes shining with trust and belief. "I knew you'd come," she whispered, and the words struck him harder than any weapon. He maneuvered the ship closer, weaving through the tendrils of darkness. Every movement required precision, courage, and something more, something only humans had, unshakable will. The maw thrashed around them, testing their resolve, but did not flinch. Then the impossible happened. A tendril of darkness shot forward, striking the hull directly. The impact sent the Star Warden spinning, alarms screaming. Sparks and smoke filled the cockpit. One of the navigators screamed, but eyes were locked on Lyra. Time slowed. Without hesitation, he dived toward her fragment, twisting the ship mid-spin. The grapple arm extended like a human hand reaching through despair itself. Lyra's small hands caught it. She was trembling but alive. Her faith, her trust in him, became the anchor against the Maw's chaos. His heart thundered as he yanked her aboard. The shadows lashed once more, but the human defiance between them burned brighter than the darkness. Courage, hope, and determination, things no machine or alien force could ever truly destroy, pushed the ship forward. The Maw shrieked again, but then it paused. The tendrils recoiled, almost as if confused. Humans were not like the other creatures it had consumed. They did not bow to fear. They did not surrender. They acted when others fled. Glanced at Lyra. Her small, scared face now shone with relief, wonder, and trust. And in that moment he understood something humans had always known. Survival was not about strength alone. It was about spirit. It was about daring when all odds said no. He gripped the controls and whispered, "We're not done yet, but we're still here, and we always will be." For the first time, the light of hope cut through the Maw's darkness, illuminating a path out. The Star Warden surged forward, carrying human courage through the heart of the void, defying a force older than the stars themselves. Somewhere in that endless darkness, the universe learned a lesson it had never known. Never underestimate the stubborn heart of a human. Hale's hands tightened on the controls. He had entered the Maw to save a child, but he realized something far greater. Humans did not survive because they were the strongest. They survived because they refused to break. And today, they would survive again. The Star Warden emerged from the Maw's writhing darkness like a wounded bird breaking free of a storm. Stars shone again, faint at first, then brilliant as if the universe itself exhaled in relief. Hale's muscles screamed in exhaustion, his hands still gripping the controls as if letting go meant losing everything. Lyra sat beside him, trembling, her small form shivering not from cold, but from the terror and relief intertwined in her young heart. Glanced at her, nodding the way her wide eyes reflected the beyond the cockpit. "You're safe now," he said softly, though even he did not fully believe it yet. After facing the Maw, survival felt fragile, almost miraculous. I thought I'd never see anyone again," Lyra whispered, her voice cracked. "I thought the darkness it would take me." His chest tightened. Humans had a strange gift. They felt every emotion, carried it like armor, yet never let it defeat them. He reached over and squeezed her small shoulder. "You're stronger than you know," he said. "You kept hope when nothing else existed." She looked up at him, blinking rapidly, tears glimmering in the starlight. "You came for me, even when the Maw everything tried to stop you. Why?" Hesitated, searching for words that could carry the weight of human determination. "Because humans don't leave anyone behind. Even when the odds are impossible, even when the universe seems against us, we fight." Lyra's lips trembled. I want to be like that, brave like you." Allowed himself a faint smile, though exhaustion pulled at his bones. "You already are. Courage isn't about never feeling fear, it's about acting anyway. You've done that today." For a long moment, silence settled over the cockpit. Then Lyra's hand moved, hesitating, and placed a small, glowing object on the console. Recognized it immediately. It was an orb, faintly pulsing with light, not like any artifact he had ever seen. "What's this?" he asked. Lyra looked down. "The Maw wanted it, the darkness, I think. It tried to take it from me while I was trapped. The Queen, she warned me not to speak of it, but I think it's why the Maw attacked." Felt a chill run down his spine. The Queen had mentioned a secret, something her daughter carried. He had assumed it was political, perhaps a key to power, maybe even a weapon. But this was something alive, something that pulsed with intent. Lyra's voice broke through his thoughts. "It's part of me, I think. I don't understand it, but it feels like hope, like something that can save people. The Maw, it wanted it, and now it's safe." His heart pounded. Humans often face the unknown, but this was beyond anything logical. Yet instinct told him she was right. Whatever this orb represented, it was powerful enough to draw the maw, ancient and merciless, and yet fragile enough that only a human's courage could protect it. "Then we protect it," said firmly. "No matter what comes next, humans survive because we protect each other, and that includes you." Lyra's lips curved into a small, grateful smile. "You really mean that?" "I do," he replied. "And not just because I have to, because we don't turn away from those who need us. That's who we are." The stars outside seemed to shine brighter as if agreeing. Somewhere deep in the cosmos, an empire's most feared queen had entrusted a human with her child, and that child now carried a secret the universe itself feared. Leaned back, exhausted but resolute. He didn't know what dangers lay ahead, but one truth had never been clearer. Humans did not survive by avoiding danger. They survived by standing in its face, by daring when everything else told them to run, and by fighting for life even when hope seemed impossible. And now, a young princess had learned the same lesson. Lyra's small hand touched his arm again, a silent question. Nodded. "We'll get home, and we'll make sure the queen knows her daughter and her secret are safe. That's the human way." She exhaled, relief flooding her young face. I think I understand. Humans, we never give up." Smiled faintly, the kind of smile that had won battles, inspired crews, and carried lives through impossible odds. "Exactly, and neither do I." Somewhere out there in the vastness of the stars, the universe watched a human and a child who carried its most dangerous secret. Neither of them bowed to fear. Neither of them surrendered, and neither of them would stop fighting. Because humans, even small, fragile humans, carried courage that no darkness could ever truly destroy. And that courage would shape the fate of the galaxy. The Star Warden glided back through the calm stars, leaving them all far behind. Silence replaced the chaos, and for the first time in days, Hale could feel the weight of exhaustion pressing down. Every muscle ached, every thought screamed for rest, but he couldn't stop yet. Not until Princess Lyra was safely returned, not until the Queen knew that hope, fragile and bright, had survived. Lyra sat quietly beside him, the glowing orb resting in her lap. She traced patterns on its surface with small fingers, eyes wide with wonder. It feels alive," she murmured, "like it's breathing." Nodded, keeping his eyes on the stars. "Whatever it is, it's important. That's why the Maw wanted it, and why you kept it alive. You've carried more than most humans or aliens ever could." Her gaze met his, trembling but determined. "I wasn't afraid, not really, because I knew you were coming." His chest tightened. Humans survived not because they never felt fear, but because someone, or something, gave them reason to fight. He had been that reason for her, and now, somehow, she had returned the favor by reminding him why humans never gave up. They approached the capital, the crystal spires glittering like frozen light. The Queen waited on the launch platform, flanked by silent guards. But when Lyra landed, she stepped forward, a storm of emotion crossing her luminous face. Relief, awe, fear, and something else, a profound gratitude. "Princess Lyra," she exclaimed, her voice breaking like a fragile melody. She rushed forward, enveloping her daughter in arms that shimmered with alien light. Lyra leaned against her, safe at last, but her small hands still held the glowing orb. Stepped back, letting the reunion happen. He had not come for praise, not for recognition. Humans survived because they acted, because they carried courage where others faltered. And this was enough. The Queen looked up at him, tears glistening in her starlit eyes. "Admiral Hale, you saved her, you the Maw itself, and you returned with her alive." His jaw tightened. "It wasn't just me," he said quietly. "It was humans and her courage too. Humans survive because we refuse to abandon anyone. That's the way we are." The Queen studied him, awe and reverence in her gaze. "Your people, you are more than I imagined, not just brave, but unshakable. Even the impossible bends before your spirit." Nodded, feeling the truth of her words settle into his bones. They had faced a force older than stars and emerged with life, hope, and a secret that could shape empires. All because humans dared to stand where others would run. Lyra raised the glowing orb, showing it to the Queen. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. "The Maw wanted this," she whispered, "but I kept it safe, helped me." The queen reached out, touching the orb, and her eyes widened. Its light reflected in her gaze, revealing something she had feared and now could barely comprehend. It's pure energy, hope itself, I think. A force older than war, older than any empire. You humans, you carried hope through the maw and returned it. Felt a warmth spread through him. Humans had survived countless trials, but this was different. They had survived the impossible not with weapons, not with armies, but with courage and defiance. That was their power. That was their gift. The queen knelt, bowing her radiant head slightly. Admiral Hale, you honor my empire and my family. I can never repay this. Shook his head. No empire, no reward, just life. Humans fight because it matters, not because we seek glory. Hope matters, life matters, that's enough for us. Lyra hugged him briefly, her small voice strong. Thank you for not giving up on me. Smiled faintly, exhausted but alive. I never would. Humans don't turn away from those who need us, and now you've learned that too. The stars sparkled above the capital, brighter than ever, as if celebrating their return. Somewhere out there, the universe witnessed the truth. Courage, hope, and defiance could survive even the oldest darkness. Humans had proven it again. And in that moment, Hale understood the greatest lesson of all. Even when the universe seemed infinite and merciless, one human heart, undaunted, unbroken, and unafraid, could change everything. The queen gathered her daughter and the orb, her eyes lingering on one last time. He nodded silently, knowing words were not needed. Humans had stood the darkness and returned hope to a galaxy that had forgotten it could exist. As walked away from the launch platform, the nebula reflecting in his eyes, he felt something swell inside him, a quiet, unyielding truth. Humans survive, humans endure, and humans, they shine when the universe is darkest. And for the first time in that endless galaxy, even the queen believed it.